For homework tonight, you guys are going to watch this video about the lab equipment we're going to use in chemistry lab, and then you're going to complete the accompanying worksheet packet so we can jump right into our chemistry lab. So, the beaker, our glass beaker is something you're going to use a ton. It's a perfect vessel to hold liquids and solids that are not likely to splatter. If you're going to use something that might release a gas or are worried that it might splatter, you're going to use this Erlenmeyer flask. It's got a flat bottom and then it gets smaller near the top. A Florence flask is a little bit more special. We're not going to use it this year, but I wanted to show you. It's also flat on the bottom, rounded on the sides, and narrow near the top. Something you're going to use a lot is a graduated cylinder. You're going to use this to measure the volume of liquids. See the graduated lines? Those are measured in milliliters. We're going to use test tubes a lot. Maybe these middle-sized test tubes or smaller test tubes. And we're going to use these for different experiments. They have a rounded bottom, so you want to make sure you use a test tube holder, especially if you are heating the test tube. You can use a test tube brush to clean the test tube and a test tube rack for storing your test tubes. Never walk around with the test tubes in the test tube rack just in case they might slide out and fall and shatter to the floor. You can use rubber stoppers to close the mouth of a test tube or Erlenmeyer flask. Make sure you never use a rubber stopper if you're going to heat the liquid or solid that's in, because it could cause the test tube to explode. All right. If you want to stir your experiment, you can use a glass stirring rod. And if you want to add anything in a dropwise fashion that you don't need an exact amount, you can use a medicine dropper or a small plastic disposable pipette. When we get to acids and bases, you're going to use some indicators such as litmus paper. Red litmus paper helps us identify bases, while blue helps us identify acids. We can also use forceps or tweezers when we're picking up small objects. One of our first labs, we're going to use a funnel. Funnels can be used to transfer liquid from, say, a larger vessel to a smaller, and we can also, with filter paper, use them for filtration. If we want to transfer volumes of liquids but want to know how much we're transferring, we're not going to use those disposable pipettes, but we'll use a Mohr pipette with a bulb at the end, and that will help us deliver the exact amounts that we want. See how it has a graduated milliliter lines on it like a graduated cylinder. One of my favorite words in the chemistry lab equipment is a scupula. We can use a scupula or spatula to dispense small amounts of solid chemicals from their containers, because we want to make sure we never transfer chemicals with our bare hands. Talking about not using your bare hands, if you've heated a beaker and you're trying to remove it from a Bunsen burner or a hot plate, you're going to make sure you use these insulated beaker tongs. And there it is, our Bunsen burner. We can use those hooked up to a gas line. It will produce a flame, and we can use that for heating solids and liquids. Personally, I prefer using this stir hot plate combo, and we're going to use this several times this year for heating. You'll also see that we're going to use some ring stands, and they have lots of different components. They're a very convenient way to use a Bunsen burner, as well as can be used for our acid-base titrations. So it has a metal base with a metal pole onto which we can clamp an iron ring, which you could then use to place things on top. You also can use this utility clamp, which is perfect with test tubes, to attach it to the pole of the ring stand. Wire gauze would be placed on top of the iron ring, and then you could put a beaker or an Erlenmeyer flask on top of that. Strikers will produce a small spark that you can use to light your Bunsen burners. All right, when we're using our labs and we need to measure out quantities of solids, we're going to measure mass in grams, not in ounces, because we're here in science class. We can use a triple beam balance, or if we want to get more exact measurements, we can use an electronic scale. If we want to measure temperature, we're going to use these great thermometers that no longer have mercury, and we're going to measure temperature in Celsius, not Fahrenheit. And if we need to measure length, we're going to use a ruler or a meter stick, and we're going to make sure that we measure in centimeters, not inches. And I know you already know this, but because of your safety lecture, you already know this. We're going to make sure that we always use goggles to protect our eyes from glasses, chemicals, or any other foreign matter. So let's make sure you understood what you just listened to. Lots of information I just shared with you about lab equipment. You're going to complete the worksheet packet that you got and identify the name and uses for all these different lab equipment so we can jump right into doing some labs.